Hello and welcome back to Mixing Mastermind. My name is Simon, and today we're going to go through my mix template again. This time we're actually going to do some mixing, so more of a practical guide. It's not going to be a full mix breakdown or anything, I don't think, but we're going to go through how I use the template, some of the routing, and actually get a mix started, and hopefully give you guys an idea of how to actually use this in a practical kind of way. So I've got a song here, which is from a friend's band I recorded in my studio last weekend. They don't have a name, so I can't really shout that out, but they kindly let me use their song for this demonstration. So we're going to get right into it. I have here in front of me my mix template, the one that I shared with you guys a little while ago. You can check out the video in the description. If you want to check that out, you can download the mix template and you can have a play around with it yourself if you use Reverb. So just a quick rundown with all my channels here: the drums, bass group, guitars. This song doesn't have any vocals, so we're not going to use any of this vocal processing, and some of my send effects just to get started with. I've also set up my MIDI for my drums already. There's a video for that if you're not sure about it. And we're just going to start with dragging the files in from our Windows Explorer here. And so one interesting feature which I didn't know about Reaper until just yesterday, I always thought this was a bug actually with dragging files into your project, that they didn't really order properly when I dragged them in. So I could just get these files, drag them in down to the bottom of my project here, and it would start with 10 and then 1 was down the bottom here, and that was always really annoying me. I always had to go through and just reorder them. I mean, not a big problem, but I always thought this was a bug actually until I submitted it to the website, and someone kindly said that actually this is how it's supposed to be. Because what I did was when I clicked and dragged from number 10, that's the file that's going to put it on top. So from 10, then there it is at the top there, which is actually kind of useful really. So if I wanted to do that properly, I just need to drag from number 1 and drop it in there, and everything is nicely sorted the way I want. So there you go, handy hint there. So what we've got here is our drums. This is the first 14 channels, 2 kicks, 2 snares. We have a hose mic, of course, toms, overheads, hi-hat, reversed mic, the ride, talkback. This reversed mic is a mic in front of the kick drum, kind of pointing towards the snare. Pretty cool. And this talkback mic is just behind the drummer's shoulder, just for a talkback. That might be useful in the mix. We'll see. First, I'm just going to color code these so I know what I'm looking at here. My drums I always make red, so I'm going to do that. Also the same with my triggers. Might as well make them red too. My bass tracks. So there's a bit more tracks here than I need because I've actually done some phase alignment here already. So I'm going to just delete these, the ones with AA at the end. Those are ones that have been aligned already. So I'm going to delete the other duplicates. This 421, this I5. This one here. So there's 4 tracks there. These are going to be blue because bass is blue. Same thing with all these guitar tracks here. This is just guitars now. Guitars are obviously green. So anything with duplicate names. This one. This one. I think it was just these. Yeah, this one. This one. I think that should be it. So 4 tracks for this guitar, 4 tracks for this guitar. We've got 2 room mics and 3 here, some DIs we don't really need. I'm just going to delete them for now. We don't need these DIs. That's a DI. So this is 1 guitar, there's 3 here, there's another guitar, that's a double, and then we have the room mics here. So I'm just going to drag all these drums up into our drums folder, drums group here. Same with the bass, into the bass group. Just drop it at the top there. And now guitars. Put them in the rhythm guitar group. I'm going to split these off into different folders for each separate guitar, so I can process them individually. In fact, these ones are probably the same guitar and the same tone, so they'll probably stay in one group. And then this is like doing more of the lead stuff. So this guitar I'm going to just drop into, say, the lead group here. There's not really any clean guitars, delete that. There's not really strings or production, can delete those. I'll leave the vocal group here because maybe I might use some of these effects anyway. They're also useful to have. All right. So that's all of our tracks in the right place. Obviously, when we start now, it's going to be a bit too loud. So first thing we need to do is just gain stage our tracks down to a reasonable level, as I discussed in my previous video. So that way we're going to probably use clip gain, I think, because the tracks are pretty hot and we got plenty of room to use. So I'm just going to drag everything. Let's just check out our master track. So we want to have around about -6, -12, somewhere in that region. Okay, that'll do for now. That gives us some headroom to play with. All right, and we're pretty much ready and set to go now. The first thing I want to do is just organize these drums further into groups. So we have normally 5 groups extra, which is kick, snare, toms, overheads. Well, there's no rooms, so I might just do an extra one for like the cymbals, spot mics. So let's just drop this stuff in. Kick goes into this kick group. Also the MIDI can go in there for now. Actually, no, not yet. Snare goes to the next one. Snare group. Toms are next. Toms group. Let's do our overheads next. For each group. This can be cymbals group. So just going to put the rest of everything in there. We'll see if we want to split that out even further. So now what to do with this MIDI? What I'm probably going to use here just to start with is Superior Drummer. So I'm just going to load that in right now because I really like the rooms on there, so it should help to give us a bit of bit of ambience and space around the drums. So let's insert Superior Drummer 3. So it asks us if you want to add all the routing. I'm going to say yes. We don't need all of it, but we need some of it. So it might as well save us a little bit of work, and we need to assign these outputs to the channels here. So these are all on the same MIDI notes. We need to alter them so they work for the right trigger in Superior. This should be our drums, our kick drum, sorry. So let's just find where the kick drum is. Should be this C2. So we just drag all that there. This is our snare. So probably D2 there. Our rack tom. Not sure where that is. Let's just see where this rack tom is. We need 2, so I'm going to load in just a kit here, like we don't really want to go full metal with this. Let's try the avatar kit. Might be okay. Just see what's closest the pitch for this tom that we've got. So this 10-inch one, I guess. Let's use that. So this is MIDI mapping center 47. I don't know what that means. Show MIDI mapping, okay. So somewhere just above the snare. Okay, we can find that. All right. Was that it? I think that was that. So floor tom. Okay, let's try and find that. That's that one. And then here. That one, okay. So that's all of our MIDI now, should play in Superior. So now we want to select the outputs for each of those channels. So we just grab all the kicks, select, let's say 3 and 4, snares, 5 and 6. We'll just put all the toms on 7 and 8. And then like the rest of the room mics and everything on 9 and 10. So now we should see here. This is our SD kick. This next one is our SD snare. This should be our toms. SD toms. This is our SD, let's say rooms, I don't know, or ambience. So we can actually drag these, well, the rest we can delete. These channels we don't need anymore that Superior Drum created. Now we can copy our kick track here into our kick group. Same with our snare. Same with our toms. And our ambient tracks can go in, yeah, wherever, cymbals for now. And yeah, now we're all set up. Okay, we don't need those. Okay, we're pretty much good to go now to get started with. So I'm gonna just find a part of the song and kind of play everything together and just try and balance it in roughly. With as much playing as possible, and yeah, try and get a good place to start. And before we start doing any EQ or compression or anything crazy like that, get a good idea of the song and how everything's recorded and how it feels. So let's just try, we'll find a part here where the guitars are doubled up, and we have some rooms here, these guitar rooms. Make sure everything's panned in the right way. Just pan these out. So I'm just doing a bit of panning at the moment, just panned out the overheads, for example. The hi-hat need to be panned. The ride was kind of placed in the middle of the kit, so I'm just gonna like leave that where it is in the center. The talkback also, most of those should be fine. I mean, I might want to also edit these toms, so I'm getting rid of any of the bleed in them. I mean, there's not a lot of anything too nasty in there. But I'm gonna pan them. Okay, so that's everything's roughly in there. Levels, just gonna adjust the triggers down a bit so I can hear a bit more of the natural sound, and adjust my mic stand too because that seems to be slipping down. Okay. All right. Okay, let's try and make some use of this template, shall we? So first of all, let's look at some parallel compression. Now, this is something I usually start off with before I start really adding too much EQ to my drums, because this can really alter the sound, and this can get me quite a long way without having to do too much. So this is a good place to start for me. One thing I nearly always use is this Fatso compressor here by UAD. This is one of my first parallel sends, which I nearly always use, this one here. So I'm going to send it maybe my kick and snare there, and let's see how that goes. Probably just gonna, I do it normally from the individual channels. So just select all my kick and snare channels, hold down shift, hold on the IO button, and just drag it over here to the Fatso. That should hopefully have created a bunch of receives here. So now, if I pull this up, oh, the wrong one. Okay, let's try again. So this is my now compressed drums from my kick and snare coming to this channel here. This is probably going to be way too much, but just want to have it, listen to it in solo. Okay, let's pull that down. Let's find a different part of the song, maybe down here. Cool. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my next send. Hold down shift, drag this over to this VPD2, which is the Valley People Dynamite plugin. This adds a bit more sort of a character to the drums. It needs a little bit of tweaking normally, so let's just have a listen to that one. So a really like pumpy kind of like distorted sound, which is really, really cool to blend in. Actually, I like how it's sounding at the moment with these settings. Yeah, something like that. So let's blend that in. Okay, that helps give my drums a little bit of life, which is what I'm after. Okay, one thing I wanted to address just then was just the drum samples that I used. So I actually wasn't really so happy with what we loaded up first of all. So I just went back in and changed a few things. I actually used the Rock Warehouse kit instead and have this kind of bit more of a lower snare to blend in with our piccolo snare to try and give it a bit more body. This kick is much more appropriate, I think, for what we need, and I mean these toms, they're fine as well. So yeah, we're going to use that for now, and that sounds a bit like this. I also just pulled everything down a little bit just to give us a bit more headroom to work with, because we were losing a little bit there. Okay, so what else can we do with this template? Let's stay with our drums for now. We can try add some reverb. Maybe this, I have a snare reverb here, which I normally use. It's this Vintage Verb by Valhalla. It's a very, very short reverb. And it's just using the ambient setting here, so it just gives it, yeah, basically some ambience, which is, and actually some body as well, which is quite nice. So let's just use the group track. I'm gonna just drag that over here to the snare. This Rev S, which is our snare verb, and let's just have a listen to that. So there's not really a long tail there at all. It's just an ambient sound, which is kind of nice and actually does give some kind of like fatness to the low end of the snare as well. So that's pretty cool trick. Let's just leave it like that for now. See what our toms maybe need some verb. Where is this tom part here? So let's drag that over to the tom verb. So I'm just using the UAD Lexicon 224. Just pull down the reverb a little bit, the time. I have it on a percussive plate setting here. And noise turned off. So let's just try that. Let's try a little bit of bus processing here on the drums and see if this does anything cool. Let's just try this tape thing. Let's see if that's any good. This UBK is adding some nice density to the sound, kind of bringing up the warmth and the sides, and kind of softening the transients a little bit. So that's pretty nice. We can also try maybe just some clipping on here instead, just to clip down the transients a bit, and see if we can bring up some of the body of the drums. Let's just try that maybe. Normally I use the, say, oops, not that one. Generally the JST clip, this one here. Let's try that. Yikes. Okay. I like that with a little bit of the mix of the clipping at the very end there, using this UBK as well. I got this on this glue setting here. Again, this is like in a parallel. This is also parallel here. The saturation, a little bit of density here, and just adjust the master to your taste here for the output. But that's sounding pretty good without even doing any EQing or anything on the tracks. So that's pretty cool. Just to fix my mic stand again. All right, what else can we do with this template? There's like a low end thing, which I have here. It's got a bunch of stuff on saturation, this sub filter here. It can be useful for kick drums and various things, just to get like some kind of low. Let's give it a try. Let's try it on the kick drum, see if it does anything useful. Sounds like this on its own, just very short, kind of subby knock to the sound. I'm not sure we need it though. Let's just. I mean, it gives a little bit of weight down, right down there in the kind of sub-region, which is pretty nice. So let's leave it in. I have another overall drum verb here, which I like also. It's a Lexicon 224 on the room setting. We can just add this to the drum group I usually do. So just drag this over and let's see if that does anything cool. I might actually take off the compression here. I think there was too much going on with this, as well as the clipping and parallel. So take off the bus compressor. I think that's kind of a little bit better. We also have some compression here at the very end. This should just be knocking down the snare. What we can do then is adjust the attack here so that as you can hear, it's kind of crushing the snare quite a lot, but we can kind of open that up a little bit if we want a little bit more punch out of it. All right, so yeah, that's our drums. I'm not going to get into too much EQing and stuff right now. I just want to show you really the template stuff. So as you can see, you can just get in there with the group tracks and carve out some EQ on the individual elements here. This all needs to be looked at in a bit more detail, but let's just move on to our bass, and let's check out this. We have like a bass direct out of the amp, and like a DI, and then two mic'd up on this SVT cabinet. Two mics on the SVT cabinet with a 421 and an Audix i5. You can hear some drums in there because it was in the same room as the drums were being played. So I have a track down here called Bass Low, which is kind of a very filtered off channel. If I want to add, normally I use the DI here for any of this processing. I'm just going to drag this down here to the Bass Low. It just gives us a really, really low sub part of our bass sound. So if we're lacking a little bit, we can just blend some of this in, but I don't know if we are. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, that works nicely. It's the same thing for like an upper part of the sound, but I don't know, we can try it and see if we need this or not, but it sounds like very mid-rangey. And compressed, but let's see if we need that. I'm not sure. Not really, it's more like for metal, I guess. There's a distortion track here, which I like a lot. We can try that one out. Let's move this one down to the distortion track. We want this bass to sound like powerful and with a good amount of distortion on it, so this could be something useful for us. Let's try it. Okay, that's pretty cool. One of the effects that I have down in the back here is this symphonic thing, which I use on my bass guitar. It's like a kind of a chorusy effect, stereo chorusy effect, just affecting the sort of upper range of the bass, which can be pretty nice. So I'm gonna just try that out from IO here. Just select the send, symphonic. Sounds like quite a lot when you solo it, but with everything else added in, it's kind of just blends in pretty nice. So it gives like just some width to the stereo, to the bass, without anything getting too crazy in the low end. And one thing I normally do with my bass is just to add this CLA bass plugin, which I really like here. Kind of cleans up the mid-range a little bit, adds a little bit more kind of, this growl is pretty nice, distortion. So generally just EQs it pretty nicely just to give you a good starting place. And that's kind of that. So let's move on to the guitars. Let's first set up rhythm guitars here. We have both guitarists playing in the room at the same time, and we have this room track here, which is pretty cool. The main direct sound from the double track guitars is and there's nothing really to do in the template necessarily. Nothing I normally I use, but just need some EQ here just to give it a bit of brightness and general presence in the track. So let's just throw on some EQ real quick. This is pretty nice to use for guitars. I think this the way that everything's just configured by default is pretty good to start with. We can turn on the high pass here, just put around at 80. We've got a boost at 12K. We've got a boost at 1.6. These are good places, I think, to boost guitars. Stays away from the kind of harsh regions around 4 or 5K. So let's just give that a go. Something similar for the other sort of lead guitar thing. Maybe we'll add a little bit of effects here for this lead sound. We've got a few effects here in the yellow. We have micro shift. We have just some echo boy, and we have like some more echoey crystallizer stuff. So let's add the micro shift here to this one, to this lead guitar group. It should just give it a bit more sort of body. Kind of just a bit more width and presence there. We can try a little bit of the crystallizer maybe. Let's see if that does anything cool. Let's get our friend here soothe on this. Yeah, so there we have some guitars roughly in there. Bass is roughly in, drums too. Just to use some of our parallel effects, and yeah, there's a few more things to play with there if you want. There's just some delays and reverbs here. This 250 EMT 250 I really like. We could try that on this lead guitar too. Maybe let's try that. So make a send to the EMT. We do already have a room anyway here. Maybe we could send that to the reverb. obviously we need to deal with the mix in a way that works for this intro section too, and not just the heavy stuff. So yeah, that's just something to consider. And one thing I will always do, maybe even before this, is to get my sort of mastering chain up so I can get like a bit more of a clear sound of how the finished thing will be. So I can do that real quick. I'm just going to load up an effects chain here called Basic Master. It gives me a good starting place. I'll try and make sure this isn't going to be too loud. There's a bunch of things on here. Tape machine, some multiband, this vintage warmer, some FabFilter Saturn, some EQs if I want to use them, and my limiter finally. So the limiter is just not doing anything right now, but it should still give us a bit more gain and a bit more of a sound. So let's see. I think generally in the mix we're lacking a little bit of this sort of mid-range around 500, so I can boost them here maybe, or I can yeah, see if there's some other places to add it, but that seems to do quite a good job. I mean, we can even see by just looking at this graph here where it seems to be very scooped in this point. So that's where our guitar should live. So we want to probably just look at boosting some of that kind of mid-range into our rhythm guitars here. Let's just throw on something like this Neve, maybe around here. I'm going to just increase the gain a little bit now to give us up to kind of where I'd like my master to be loudness wise. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. This isn't a finished mix by any stretch of the imagination, but should give you a good idea of like how I use my template and some of the processes and workflow that I have and how to get things going. The kind of way that I like to move through the types of channels and add the processing. And as you can see, when I'm mixing, generally, I always try and have the tracks kind of all playing together as much as possible so I can sort of get an idea of the full sound when I'm working on something. It's great that I can solo individual like processing and just to hear what's going on and adjust the settings and then quickly put it back so that I can hear how it sounds in context with everything else. I think having your own like mastering chain of some kind is really useful, especially just to start your mixes. and it can really help to shape the mix without doing too much EQ on individual tracks. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful, and hopefully you can use my template a little bit better with that knowledge. So thanks a lot for watching, and hope it was enjoyable, and see you next time. Bye.